and you are, if you are suicidal, reach out to 988, the suicide helpline, because you do matter. Your life matters, and it's only one bad day. And if you're using those coping skills, like I am today, out on the trail, then you can get through those feelings of sadness after discard. You can get through those feelings of suicide, just by staying strong, staying sober. Because both borderlines, you're going to see discard from both borderlines and narcissist people, because they do lack that empathy. They're self-serving. That's with narcissists, they're self-serving, so they're really not thinking of you. And with borderline individuals, like one of my ex-girlfriends was pretty heavily borderline, and she told me relationships trigger her. That's why me and her could never work out. We never could make things work. Because every time I tried to love her, every time I tried to be a boyfriend, a husband, every time I got emotionally close to her, she started feeling anxiety. She started feeling triggered, because she's had a lot of past domestic violence and stuff. So she has major anxiety when a man tries to love her. Like there was a man that punched the shit out of her one time, and that caused a major anxiety in regards to relationships. So if you have a borderline girlfriend, or even a narcissist girlfriend or boyfriend, keep in mind that these people have suffered a lot of trauma. Like for me, I was actually physically abused as a child. My dad used to smack me around as like a 9-year-old kid. One time smacked me to the floor, threw me upstairs with one throw, actually beat me unconscious one night in my bed, knocked me out, hit me so many times in my bed, knocked me out. So that's why it's important to process trauma. If you need to go to counseling, like I'm going to start going to counseling soon, once a month. So that's another thing you can do during discard. You could go to counseling, because you pretty much got to do anything you got to do to get through this discard phase. And it's pretty much just when a borderline or a narcissist just ghosts out of your life. And the problem is, you're most likely an empath, because narcissists are attracted to empaths, and so are borderlines. Because empaths are so willing to serve others at our expense. The empath puts their needs on the back burner for the narcissist, for the borderline. Like one time I drove through the night to help my borderline girlfriend. I had to drop her off at jail. I had to work through the night to get bail paperwork. And then like 2 weeks later, she discarded me. And it's been 2 years. And that's been really hard for me, because I really did care about that person. I really did love that person. And I get mad a lot. But that's not really fair to her, because she's suffering from PTSD, which is a mental illness. She's suffering from borderline, which is a mental illness. And so for me to get mad at her, it's really not fair at all. It's really not fair. Because, maybe instead of me lashing out, like in the past, I've gotten really fucking pissed. Maybe I could do some artwork or something and express my anger that way. Because, I tell men all the time, it's not okay. Domestic violence and yelling at your girlfriend, scaring your girlfriend, none of that is okay, guys. When I was a little kid, I was up in my room with my BB gun at 9 years old. While my dad was beating on my mom, putting a pair of scissors to her throat. And then we had to escape to a motel and get away from my dad. It was a really, really rough time. And then my dad discarded our whole family and moved to Las Vegas and got addicted to crystal meth. So I had to grow up without a father, you know? So that was also hard. You know, when I was younger, I moved in with my grandparents. And then as an adult, I tended to end up in the hands of borderline, end up in the arms of a lot of narcissists, because I was so empathic, or empath, which borderline women and borderline men, narcissist men and women, are attracted to the empath because the empath wants to love them. The empath wants to understand them. The empath wants to be there for them. Like one of the most romantic times I've ever had with my borderline girlfriend. We were so close. Like one time we kissed on a trail, and this old woman went by and she's like, "Aw." I was so in love with that girl. I cared about her so much. And there was one night that she just laid on top of me and just was loving on me. And I was loving on her. And she said to me one of the saddest things in the world. She said, "Steve, sometimes why I date bad guys," and it almost made me cry. She said, "Steve, sometimes why I date bad guys is because I figure if I'm friends with the monster, he won't hurt me." And I can relate to that because I was almost murdered by a monster. You know, back in 2015, a guy had a plan to kill me. And just by the grace of God, I escaped that. So, oftentimes, you might wonder why these borderline girls are dating the bad boy, dating the guy they shouldn't date. Maybe they feel like, just like she said that night, if I'm friends with the monster and I care about the monster, they won't hurt me. One of the saddest things I've ever heard a borderline person say. So, I hope that helps you understand, guys, how much these borderlines are suffering, how much these narcissists are suffering. Because just like my old girlfriend, she said, "I can get any guy I want." She's a pretty girl, but I can't keep him. Think about how she suffers knowing that she can't have any long-term relationships and that she pushes good people like me away to date the bad boy. Maybe she wants to be friends with the monster so they don't hurt her. That same girl experienced a lot of trauma, and I care about her a lot. You know, your job as the friend and the boyfriend is to show her that you can be safe. I tell men all the time, if you get mad at your borderline narcissist girlfriend, go for a walk, because hitting them is never okay. Scaring them is never okay. Because think about it, you wouldn't want that to happen to you. If you were a girl, you wouldn't want someone beating on you, especially a man. So that's kind of about the gist of it, guys, is during the discard phase, which is basically the borderline and narcissist leaving you out of nowhere. You know, a lot of it is attributed to mental illness. A lot of it is attributed to fear of relationships, being triggered by relationships. Like one of my ex-girlfriends said, she was triggered by relationships. That's because she was assaulted by an ex-boyfriend. So the more I can understand her, the more I can learn about narcissism and borderline, the better friend I can be. You know, I tell people all the time, sometimes you have to love these women from a distance. Sometimes you have to love these people from afar. Like I recently wrote her a letter and said, "I'm going to block you because I got to let you go. I got to stop reaching out because I'm hurting myself, because I know you don't want a relationship. You don't really want to be loved, because for you, love is scary." So if you can understand the borderline from that perspective, guys, I think you're going to win. I think you're going to understand them if you can just do that. If you like mental health videos like this, you could subscribe, like this video, This is part 2 of dealing with the discard. I'm Steve. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember to have compassion towards your narcissist borderline ex. Use those coping skills. Go for a walk if you feel like hurting somebody. Go for a walk. If you're feeling suicidal today, you can call 988, the suicide helpline, because I've been there. And using your coping skills makes all the difference. Until next time, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. God bless you and have a great day.